Expansion of the company rule in India. After winning Battle of Plassey and Battle of Buxar, British East India Company had good control over regions like Bengal, Bihar, Orissa. So in order to administer all these territories, a regulatory act was passed in 1773. And as per this act, Governor of Bengal was made the Governor General of Mumbai, Madras, and other territories of Bengal, Bihar, and Odisha. And this responsibility was given to Warren Hastings, who was the Governor General at that time in 1773. During his tenure, he waged war with Maratha as well as with Hyder Ali, the father of Tipu Sultan. And because of them, Warren Hastings could not wage he waged war but could not win over the mighty powers of Marathas and and Hyder Ali. Later on, Governor General Warren Hastings was succeeded by Cornwallis. So Cornwallis was made Governor General after Warren Hastings. And during his tenure, he waged war with Tipu Sultan, who was termed as the Tiger of Mysore. Earlier, Warren Hastings could not win against mighty power of Hyder Ali. Keeping this in mind, he joined hands with Marathas and Nizam of the North India. So a combined force of British East India Company, Marathas, and Nizam, they attacked on the army of Tipu Sultan. And Tipu Sultan was defeated in this war, and hence British East India Company was able to rule over the land of Srirangapatnam, Mysore, and other territories that were under the rule of Tipu Sultan. So after Cornwallis, his another successor was Sir John Shore, who became the Governor General of East India Company and ruled over Bengal, Bihar, Orissa, and southern kingdoms like Mysore, Srirangapatnam, and other territories that were ruled by Tipu Sultan. But Sir John Shore could not withstand against the mighty powers of Marathas, and so another Governor General was replaced by him. His name was Lord Wellesley. Lord Wellesley became the Governor General of East India Company. He established Subsidiary alliance policy, and there were certain rules and regulations based on this system. The terms and tenure of these systems were: the army trained by East India Company will be provided to the state that accepts this system. In return, the state accepting the system will provide for the army or give away provinces with equivalent income to the British. It means that British East India Company will try to safeguard the territory which requires their help, and in return, the empire or the kingdom will try to maintain the army of the British East India Company. Third point, without the permission of the company, the state will not wage war or sign treaty with other states. So as per this point, it mentions that any territory or any state will not directly wage a war with other state unless it is informed to British East India Company. Fourth, there will be one English representative in the state assembly. It means that in the court of administration, defense, and other managing committees, there will be one representative from British East India Company who will try to handle all the things and will be informed of all the strategies that were made by the king. Fifth, other foreigners not to be employed in the state. That means when British representative is there in the court, French, Dutch, Portuguese will not be entertained and the kingdom will not take help from any of these foreign countries or foreigners. Lord Wellesley, with his subsidiary alliance policy, was able to annex many provinces of India and expanded rule of British East India Company. He also asked Tipu Sultan to accept his policy, but Tipu Sultan refused to accept subsidiary alliance policy and to take help from British East India Company. And because of that, Lord Wellesley from British East India Company waged a war with Tipu Sultan, and Tipu Sultan was defeated in this war in 1799. And based on this, British East India Company laid its foundation on the territories that were ruled by British East India Company. After Lord Wellesley, Warren Hastings was made the Governor General of India. He waged war with Nepal and made. So after Lord Wellesley, Lord Warren Hastings came to power. He tried to capture Nepal and made Gurkhas to join his army. There were so many places where Pindaris used to rule and make people in chaotic nature. Let me explain you what are Pindaris. Pindaris are the people who are having irregular armies. They loot the people, they take away and snatch whatever they have from the people. They either support the enemies, they initially go to enemies' territories, create create a chaotic environment, try to abuse the people, try to misbehave with them, and help the enemies to win over the territories by defeating the mental setup of the people. So Pindaris were also under the control of Lord Warren Hastings. And after defeating the Pindaris, Lord Warren Hastings was able to establish its supremacy over the Maratha region. Lord Warren Hastings had a good time in India and expanded East India Company's territories to a large extent up to Nepal, south Srirangapatnam and Mysore, in the north up to Afghanistan. So British East India Company had a very large territory in its hand. After Lord Warren Hastings, William Bentinck was made the Governor General of India. William Bentinck believed that people within India are not united, and so he wanted to make a united India. And because of his liberal policies and different reform activities, he was termed as Liberal Governor General in comparison to Lord Dalhousie, Lord Warren Hastings, Cornwallis, Robert Clive, and many other more. So William Bentinck was the first person to have liberal policies in India and tried reform activities for the benefit of the people and to unite different territories. After William Bentinck, it was the time of Lord Dalhousie to show his supremacy and power over the rule of East India Company. Lord Dalhousie established the policy of annexation. It is also termed as doctrine of lapse. Lord Dalhousie was an imperialist. What do you mean by imperialistic? Imperialistic is a person who strongly believes in rules and regulations. He is a good administrator and has a dominant nature. He follows good administrative and political powers and wanted to show his supremacy and wanted to control on different land and territories that are acquired by that person. Dalhousie was very clear of his annexation policies and wanted to expand the East India Company throughout India. So Lord Dalhousie is considered as one of the most successful Governor General to increase and expand the British East India Company's territories. Some of the examples of his policy of annexations are: based on the policy of annexation, he waged war, and based on his annexation of war, he was able to control our Punjab and Pegu. Let me explain you first what was the annexation policy or doctrine of lapse. As per Dalhousie's policy of doctrine of lapse or policy of annexation, any king who dies without a male heir, that means a son, that particular kingdom will be merged with British East India Company. And a king who do not have a male heir has no right to adopt any child as his son and as a successor of that particular kingdom. So that kingdom will be merged with British East India Company. So based on this policy, Lord Dalhousie was able to annex Punjab and Pegu, that is lower part of Burma. Today it's termed as Myanmar. Now, as per doctrine of lapse, that is annexation due to king dying without a heir, means there were some territories where there was no son to the king, and because of that, that kingdom was annexed by Dalhousie. These kingdoms were of Satara, Jaipur, Sambalpur, Udaipur, Jhansi, Bhagat, and Nagpur. Based on Lord Dalhousie's policy of doctrine of lapse, there was mismanagement in a kingdom of Awadh, and that's why that particular kingdom was also annexed by British East India Company. Another example of Nizam. Nizam was not able to pay the debt that was incurred by British East India Company, and due to the failure of paying the tax on time, the territory of Hyderabad and all the territories that were ruled by Nizam at that time were under the control of British East India Company. After winning our Mysore, the kingdom of Karnataka and Tanjore were also annexed because there was no king to look after and rule our Karnataka and Tanjore. So that kingdoms were also annexed by British East India Company under the policy of doctrine of lapse or annexation policy. Lord Dalhousie had two sides in his personality, one as an imperialistic and another as a reformer. He believed that in order to expand his control, faster communication is required, and because of that, in 1853, he started the first railway line in India from Bombay, that is from Thane, Mumbai to Thane. Telecommunication is one of the need for faster communication, and based on that, telephone systems were also started between India and England. He also started public works department, encouraged English education so that more and more number of people could learn English and can get clerical job in India. He also passed to ban he also passed laws to ban child marriage and encouraged widow remarriage. As we know that British came to India in 16th century and later on from 1757 after the Battle of Plassey they had expanded their territories and had a good control over major part of India. They were the actual rulers of Indian states. But somehow the people of India were dissatisfied because of their different policies and regulations. Now we will study what was the economic impact of the company that impacted so many Indians. When we evaluate 100 years of rule of Britishers, that is from 1757 to 1857, there were so many policies framed by Britishers in order to control Indians and expand their territories. India became a place of providing raw materials like cotton, raw silk, sugar, jute, muslin, and the prosperity of India diminished. The economic prosperity that India had was lost at the hands of British East India Company. There were so many policies framed by British East India Company that made Indian rulers weak and they were not able to perform their responsibilities strongly. As per the Dvimukhi Shashan, that is, the Nawabs were only the Nawabs were only given the responsibilities of public welfare, whereas revenue collection was the responsibility of Britishers. So British got the power of collecting revenue, whereas public welfare activities were tasked by the Nawabs or the rulers of that particular area. This was in short termed as subsidiary alliance policy. The unfair policies of British East India Company to have supremacy over Indians and collecting taxes by unfair means made many of the peasants and other people of India weak. They had to take loans to pay their debts, and so many farmers became poor, zamindars lost their territories, kings lost their power, and there was dissatisfaction among all sections of the society. So, this can be shown as a dissatisfaction among Indians, and this resulted in 1857 revolt. The dissatisfaction and the unjust policies made people to protest against the British East India Company. Social impact of the company rule. As Britishers were good administrators, they had given the spirit of freedom of speech and thought, and by coming in contact with the Britishers, Indian people developed different ideas and were able to express them among the people. Raja Ram Mohan Roy strongly was strongly opposing the sati system that was prevalent in Indian continent. This, with the help and recommendation of Raja Ram Mohan Roy, British East India Company was able to pass a law to remove sati system and child marriages. They also encourage widow remarriages. So, so Britishers first tried to increase their power over the Indians to show their supremacy. At the same time, they also formed different types of reform activities to make India reunion and to win the minds of the people. Thus, Britishers came to India in order to rule over India, but the people were not happy with their rule, and therefore, so many reform activities were made to make India grow. Lord William Bentinck was able to frame an education system that helped India to learn English, and a better education system got started in India. In short, with the help of British, there were so many reform activities which laid the foundation of a modern India.